Hey, how's it going? Um, I'm gonna read some cards, and pulled a few from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, and by a few I mean 3. And I pulled a second card, but I'll talk about these first. So, the first one I pulled was Woodwives, number 64, and this has a like a different feeling than normal. This person, this tree person, plant person, is in their home, or I want to say it's outside, but where is my indicator? Here it is. But there's this right here, and it looks like it has windows, kind of like it's an arch or a doorway or something, like a window, arch, or a doorway. But also I feel like it has the outside feel today, because it looks like she has a big floppy dark gardening hat on. It's like a lot of times it looks like they're sitting down like on a stump, but today it looks like they're standing. Kind of, it's not a person, but it looks like it's not wearing clothes, but I think it's covered. I don't know why that would be of note, but there you go. But yeah, like the hat, like maybe it's like a beach hat, or there's like a bathing feel to it, and that seems more festive than I thought it was going to be saying about. But I'm going to call it the she. It does look like she's standing today, like one leg is straight and one leg is kind of, hold on, one is kind of cocked, but she's got like 3/4 her rear facing, like the onlooker, and then like she's like, huh? So I don't know, like she's caught in mid, like I don't know if she just got home from the beach or what is the deal, but she's not pardon, she's momentarily caught unawares, but I don't feel like that's gonna, like I don't think anything's bad happening to her. It's just that the situation might change, and I don't think that she can't, like I don't think it's something she can't face, like, well, she certainly doesn't look alarmed. She's just more like, huh? But well, okay, that's all I have to say about that for the moment. And then the second card I pulled, of the second of 3 that I pulled, is Drifter. Oh no, wrong one. The second one was Covenant, and I feel like this refers to the covenant of everyone on the planet, basically, because if you weren't a part of that, you wouldn't be here, whether you remember or not. And I don't mean it to be like aggressive, like I don't care if you remember or not, it's the case. It might not be the case to you. And that's okay. Like, that's part of what I was getting about this, is like, it's not just one person signing a covenant, a contract. It's like everyone that comes here, and I'm going on the premise here that like it's a sort of in the Matrix situation. Like I'm skipping past like any kind of what do you call it, exposition about what the heck I'm talking about. So let me explain a little bit now. just assuming, or you should just assume that what I'm talking about is everyone on Earth, every being, like plants and animals even, I'm pretty sure, fall into this category or fall under this classification. They're here to play a role in the matrix, the school, the game, whatever. But every part, person, being, thing has a corresponding occupation, job. Like it's a piece. It's a piece of the Jenga. Like, it doesn't have to make sense, the shape of it or where it goes, and you don't even have to agree with it. Like, that's a free will thing, but you freely decide when you make a contract what you're agreeing to or not. So that's going to differ from person to person. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of attention on like, this is the way I'm going to do things, and I think this is right, and everything you're doing is wrong, and actually things about you are wrong too. So oh my gosh, you have to just stop and do things my way. And that is not how people, persons, places, or things work. It just doesn't. So while a contract is binding, that applies to whomever signed it and made agreements that are, basically this is the diagram of those agreements. And if you haven't signed on to this, then it's not your obligation, and it's also none of your business. So, this is with us a long time, like our lifetimes, because that is what we signed up for. Oh, and by the way, before I go any further with this line of conversation, before I talk any more about what I'm talking about, please observe my signs, because this is opinion commentary, and I hope you're entertained by it. I'm not saying you have to agree to anything. It's just me saying what I think, and really, it's not the end of the world. So, to continue. So this one here, right? Stuff is happening according to contractual agreement. Perhaps there have been amendments. I suppose I'll adjust that, or maybe not at some later point, but she's just kind of like, huh? Not jumping out of her skin and freaking out. She's kind of like, interruptions are to be expected. Although, I should have said what came to mind, upheavals are to be expected. So I guess we're going there. Well, yeah, actually, that's kind of what I feel like this is all sort of pointing to. Like, I've talked about it before. Like, I feel like something's coming that we should be ready for. Not sure exactly the nature of it, but it's not like you have to be any kind of psychic or anything to, like, look at the past 8 years and the world and not notice that something could be down the road about to happen. Like, it seems like something could be, several somethings could be coming to a head. But part of this illustration is, like, the plant thing. Always I think of roots and grounding, and it does go into that in the guidebook, if I remember correctly. So it's an obvious thing to think of at first, but the thing is, in order to stay grounded and stay rooted and not get completely blown away by impending events, it helps to be grounded and to stay that way when there's like either a real hurricane or a virtual hurricane flying around where you are. actually in a real hurricane, I don't know how useful that would be. But anyway, metaphorically, in this scenario, you're holding on, and it's not that big of a deal. You can, like, okay, something's coming, I can figure it out. Like, I can adapt, I can pop and weave. So yes, that. And then I got the drifter card again, and this is not what I have had like a little saying to myself for years, but I thought of it when I saw it in line with what I just said concerning those two cards, and that is that I would feel like the sort of storms or whatever in my life and try to like distance myself in one sort of visual mnemonic I came up with was that I was just in my little coracle, like my little walnut shell of a boat, and holding on for dear life while whatever is happening like on the ocean, and hoping that I make it. And it was nothing so dire was happening. It was just an image I got, and I could certainly be all emotional and get myself worked up, which is, I'm sure, why the seas in the imagining were turbulent. But I think like what I was talking about, like impending events, are going to be so much more turbulent than whatever I was dreaming up to upset myself with. Like this is like real things, real big things with real big implications. And well, it's going to be more than implications. The implications are now like I don't even know what to call it. The eventualities, sure, let's go with that. Whatever it turns out to be, it's going to be interesting to say the least. And I have no doubt in my mind that there's things coming up that are going to be upsetting or unnerving at the very least for a lot of people. And what's happening right now, right? Like, some people want there to be democracy and freedom, and they're like mainly on the left or possibly libertarians, but they got some. They're not a monolith. But if you're a proponent of libertarianism, then to me you got some like kind of funky ideas. But that what I just said, so there's like a left and ish, and then like the right, and every shade of that I guess that there is, although one is taking over like a virus and killing off all of the so-called rhinos, or like just people that are not interested in being MAGA or MAGA. I don't like to say MAGA. That sounds like something else in my brain. Anyway, I think people are just like sort of at their wits' end if they're a Republican and they're just like, I'm like a Republican, like, from a way back, because all this stuff now is new to be under that name, like Republicans. It doesn't even seem like a lot of what's happening there has to do with like actual politics at all, like the stuff that the ones that are elected officials or even appointed ones, like what are you people doing? You're not doing the stuff you're there to do, supposedly, unless you have ulterior motives and orders from other places, which is it looks like that to me. Like that's what looks like what's happening. And I don't want to get all too involved in that, but it's getting messy and it's getting turbulent, and outside of that, and like maybe partly because of those kinds of goings on and the things that are causing the goings on, and wow, there's just waves of unrest, like just washing back and forth, not just here, but like not just here in the United States, but everywhere. There's you're just doing that, like people are revolting and protesting and fighting, and there's violence, and oh god, here there's just violence for the sake of violence. It feels like might be like that other places too, because that's also like a virus. Like it seems like, I know like movies are not a real depiction, but I do know that people come back and they just like can't get the fight out of them, and the killing and the attacking and the brutality and the violence, and they just get like stuck in that, and that don't work when you're like here where there's not a war going on. Although there's like this underlying tension war that's trying, this silly race war thing that has been trying to start for longer than I've been alive, and it just always peters out is the thing. And like the fascism always is going to peter out, because you can't have so many fascist chefs stirring the same pot. Like they're all just going to kill each other, and then when the leaders are gone, then everybody else is going to there are cycles, like a lot of people that, oh, this is not the time to start talking about that, but there's cycles, right? Like this, none of this should be unexpected, really, that's happening, because it's happened over and over in like history, and like since the Bible. We just keep doing the same things until we end up in a situation where we're essentially like killing ourselves off. So, but you know what? This time, let's not do that. Let's go asymmetrical and do it different this time, and maybe not have to have a flood wash us all away because we're so screwed up. And you might be wondering why I went there. Well, it just so happens it is Sunday, but I'm telling you, man, the algorithms are on these things are so funny. Like, I was watching Ahsoka like a lot of other people, and then I watched a bunch of Star Wars content on YouTube, like people talking about it and Easter egging and explaining and all of that kind of business, and that they start talking about the Thrawn's, the captain, and he's got like a really, I guess, kind of interesting and scary costume, or not costume, armor. What are your costume? And yeah, he's like supposed to be really like bad, and his name is Enoch, like Enoch. And that name has just been coming up lately, and I knew it was a story I needed to refresh my memory on, and that came up today. And then I just watched what came after, and it was very interesting what the algorithm served me up. But well, let's start talking about that. Oh, like the same thing repeating over and over. Like they're talking about Babylon and oh god, another place that got flooded out. And keep in mind, this is the Bible that's gone through men's hands, like human hands, and is not necessarily the 100% truthful document that it is thought to be. Like, I think people pretty well understand that these days, but the thing about Enoch is that he came from like the line of Adam, like Adam and Eve, and he was, I think, a descendant of Abel. Wait. Yeah, of Abel. not the one the brother that got killed by the other brother. It's a whole thing. But Enoch is like the child of Seth, which is the one that replaced Abel that Eve had next, and it's actually not that far. Like, they even say it in the show, like, right before they get to the part about, like, Babylon's gotta come down, the tower's gotta fall. Before that, even, they make a comment. They're like, we're 4 chapters, or I don't know, I forget what they're called, what he said that the Bible chapter parts are called, but verses, I think. He's like, we're 4 verses in and it's already so corrupt. There's murder, they ate the forbidden fruit. I'm like, yeah, it's a real action novel. But so Enoch is, comparatively, when you read that book and they start talking about lineage, pretty close to the beginning. And they talk about his long life and how he wasn't as long lived as, like, his parents even, or his siblings, I guess, too. But he had, of course, like, something special about him, wise and, like, divine, and he became, like, a chosen of God. And but the thing about Enoch, like, in the common era, is, well, that's pretty common considering the time frames I'm talking about. But I met this guy like 10 years ago now, and or almost 10 years ago, and he was saying that he learned Enochian language, and I was like, oh, and it's like an angelic language. So that was a while ago, but I always think about that, and then, like, just like I said, Enoch, the name just comes up. Oh yeah, and the other one that kind of stuck in my mind, that, you know, I'm sure there's deliberate parallels to the biblical Enoch story to the Enoch in Boardwalk Empire, because he's got a brother, and I think a couple of times one of them was plotting to kill the other and wasn't quite successful, or both of them were trying it, you know, at times. That brother murder thing is very biblical, isn't it? So, yeah, you know, 'cause I just, like, learned a bunch about that today, and I finally was like, yesterday, same thing was happening with, like, all of the things that were coming were like synchronous in some way. And yesterday I was watching what are all the angels and their meanings, or what do they do, or whatever, you know, yeah, their meanings, I guess. So I started watching that, and that was interesting. Oh, I know what I wanted to say about Enoch, though. There was one thing that he was, like, he says stuff that's recorded in the Bible. Actually, I think the Enoch things, I think that was the thing, is that they're actually not in the Bible. They're one of those Gospels that got removed, I believe. I don't know, I watched a bunch of stuff yesterday, so I may be kind of confused, but in his writings, he talks about what angels have told him, because he goes on this, I don't know, the angels take him off and show him stuff, and at one point they show him, like, a future time, which is probably, like, now-ish into the future, about how just the whole landscape of the world is going to be so different. But they talked about when all of the spirits would be visible to everyone, and I thought, wow, because, you know, I like my ghost shows and stuff. I'm not so much like a horror movie person. I've seen, like, a bunch of them, but not, like, everything by any means. Like, people be talking about movies and I'll be like, huh, what? But, you know, I don't watch the horror ones too much. But that's like a whole world of ghost thing, like The Conjuring, and that's based on Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were real people. And really, like, you probably should, if you only have seen like those Conjuring movies, you should probably see a documentary and learn about the real people, because it's so far removed from, like, they had plenty of stories and, you know, exciting enough stuff to be obviously adapted into horror movies, but then, well, how many Conjurings have there been now? Now they're just making stuff up, I think. And I just always have wondered, I think Lorraine Warren or Ed Warren died last, I guess, of the pair. But I think he, or maybe both of them, were around to have seen those movies that were about their life, at least the first one, and I wonder what they thought. It seems like they could have not had any involvement and not let their life be depicted that way. What time am I doing? I'm doing good on time. Anyway, I just thought, like, of all of, like, the end of the world kind of things where, you know, the dead are going to come back. Like, I guess that's the spirits they were talking about. So is that zombies or ghosts we're talking about? I don't even know. It was just a point of interest. I'm just going to move on to the other card that I pulled, which was from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck, and it was the bear. And so the first thing I think of when I see a bear is hibernation. And this bear is not, even though it is time, if they haven't already gone to bed, it's time for hibernating animals to start, you know, moving in that direction and slowing down and blah blah blah. But this guy is not doing that, because right now is not the time to be sleeping like those impending events. It's probably going to be good to stay awake and alert as to what's going on around you, so that you can be an active participant in the SHTF, not the hitting the fan part, but the being prepared for what's to come, and to, like, we know this is coming. Like, you don't have to be a psychic, so don't be too surprised. Be prepared, be ready. You know, like, you signed up for this, but also, you know, it is. Oh, let me have it, please. It is not the end of the world. Like I said, these things are cyclic, and we can be like water, and, you know, the best way to not drown is to not freak out and resist. The best thing to do is to relax and float, if at all possible. You know, like, be face up, get those lungs full of air so you can not sink, and, you know, let yourself be carried along and have some control in the situation. Like, you don't have to let yourself drown. And I'm actually thinking of the bear. Like, I hope we're gonna feed the bear, okay? Like, that's a thing that I have is that, because we've destroyed their habitat so much, I feel like, and if they're breaking into places and eating garbage and all things like that, like, let them have the food. Like, don't just throw it in the trash. Put it somewhere away from people, you know, where they can just be all, oh my god, here's a bunch of food, and we dispose. Like, we don't feed the people that well. Like, we could also do better with feeding people, but if we don't want them coming into our homes and wrecking things and scaring us, we don't have to kill them. We can make, like, an alternate plan. And that was what I was going to say. Like, we need to feed this bear that's staying awake from hibernation, because we need its strength. We need what does the bear have? Like the mother bear strength too, and then like the male bears no, wilting flower either. I believe I didn't see the revenant. I bet I hope it's a male bear. I'll have to look. I don't know if it's worth putting in what I find out in the comments, or not the comment, the information box, but I don't know if it's interesting. Maybe I will. But anyway, I just feel like we have to have like the strength of a bear and the flexibility of a supple limb. Pun intended. All puns intended. To make our way through the impending events without getting bruised. So I think that's all I want to say about that. Thank you and good night. Boo boo.